Hello dear World of Warcraft friends, welcome back to a new video on my channel. Glad you tuned in. Today we're covering two topics in one. On the one hand, Blizzard has reversed a very controversial decision for patch 12.1 and players are relieved. Additionally, one of the most efficient leveling methods of recent years is being heavily nerfed by Blizzard. We'll take a look at what that's all about in this video. If you want to support me through the YouTube summer slump, you should definitely leave a like, subscribe below, and leave a comment. Every little bit helps. Thank you so much. And with that, let's get started. Point number one, and we've already looked at this, is the coat of arms costs. On the PTR for patch 12.1 for a few days, upgrades for items actually cost significantly more crests. As of now, and it's been this way all season, an upgrade costs 20 crests no matter which crests or what level. But on the PTR, this was changed. The first upgrade cost 10, the second 20, the third 30, the fourth 40, and the fifth 50 crests. That meant that fully upgrading an item required 150 crests. Currently, it's 100. And you can imagine that didn't go over well not just with me, but also with many other players. There was criticism directed at Blizzard, and I mentioned this in the video as well, people weren't really sure whether it was intentional or not. And thank God Blizzard has commented on this topic, we can see it here. Crest costs for gear upgrades no longer scale on 12.1 PDR, and Blizzard writes fixed an issue where upgrading gear had scaling upgrade costs. Gear now has flat costs. To upgrade each track like in Midnight Season 1, so they said the whole thing was simply a bug or error on the PTR. And they fixed it now. The question is, how did this bug even happen in the first place? I can't tell you that with 100% certainty either, since I'm not a developer, but that was the original plan Blizzard had for the gear in the Midnight Alpha. So in the Alpha, items were more expensive. And they kept getting more expensive with each level. I'm pretty sure that's still in the game files in some form. And now it has manifested itself on the PTR. I also read a few of your opinions. Someone else wrote that they would have welcomed it, because gearing wouldn't have become so fast and a lot of people just lost interest in it. Yeah, because it went so fast, they would have welcomed it taking a bit longer. I can understand that point to some extent. Both opinions are completely fine. But from a personal point of view, I have to say I'm glad they didn't implement it. Because that would have meant that you have to farm 400 or 500 more crests on every character. And especially as someone who really likes playing alts, I absolutely wouldn't have wanted to do that. So thanks to Blizzard for that. I'm really glad about that. That brings us to a second important topic. Blizzard has heavily nerfed a very efficient leveling method from the past weeks, months, and even years. This is also evident from the current PTR patch notes which Wowhead has compiled here. And this is what it's about. Characters, Earthen. Developer's note. In Curse of Ulatek, we are revisiting the amount of XP gained when exploring zones. This will particularly impact the leveling speed for Earthen characters, who receive significantly more exploration experience via their Wide-Eyed Wonder racial ability. To compensate for the decrease in experience gains from exploring zones, we are increasing the benefits of ingest minerals for Earthen. So, all in all, it's like when you're flying around somewhere on the map and you discover an area you haven't seen before, you get XP for that. It makes sense. A lot, to be honest. But that's when the Earthen came into play. They had their racial bonus, which was so strong that the experience gained from uncovering zones was massively multiplied. There was even a dedicated add-on for it. It was called something like Earthen Skyriding XP. And it actually gave you routes where you started uncovering everything in Kultiras. And then you flew around for 2 or 3 hours and you were level 90. So really it went super fast and it gave players an alternative. However, that's being scaled back now. Because Blizzard doesn't seem to be lowering the XP just for Earthen, but in general. Let's keep watching. Baseline experience gained from exploring zones reduced by 60, and now I'm not sure. It's listed under the Earthen tab. But with the wording in the first paragraph, I'm not sure if they're lowering it for everyone or just for the Earthen. But honestly, I assume it's only for the Earthen. 60, so less XP. Experience gained from exploring low-level zones is no longer reduced from baseline. So low-level zones no longer give less XP by default. And we see here, effectiveness of world wealth gained from ingesting minerals increased by 30. So, Blizzard is basically buffing another Earthen Rail shield here. We can see it here. Eating minerals. You are always full at an increased effectiveness level, but you can't consume any food. When consuming a Kazalgar gemstone, the bonus granted by being full is changed. In that case, just replace the whole thing with midnight whatever. If you eat a certain type of gemstone, you'll get either permanent stamina, haste, mastery, crit, or versatility. And now it's like this bonus gets buffed by another 30. That might even make Earthen somewhat interesting because it's a direct buff to the damage. So, if you get 30 more mastery on top of that, all in all, that's not so bad, I'd say. It's probably not gonna make Eartheners suddenly do 7,000 more DPS or anything, but at least it's a tiny little mini buff. Whether this actually compensates for removing the Explorer bonus, I don't know, because in the end, they're completely different things. Yeah, nothing you can do about it. Honestly, even though I personally didn't level up that way because it's way too boring for me to just fly around all the time, I think it's a shame that it's getting nerfed because it kind of feels like fun detected, like they're just taking it away from the players again. If someone doesn't feel like questing or doing anything else, then just let them fly around on their Earthen. It really doesn't hurt anyone. That's why I can't completely understand the decision, but there are probably some reasons for it. What's your opinion on this? Feel free to write it in the comments. Until then, have a good time and take care.